Ultimate self-mastery begins with seeing the world in balance. For us to understand how to achieve self-mastery through the four bodies, we must first understand the concept of duality and how it impacts our consciousness. In the common belief system of spiritualists, it is thought that you must perceive yourself to be only a being of light in order to reach higher states of consciousness. While I believe intrinsically this is the truth at the core of who we are, it does not encapsulate the truth of how we are expressing ourselves as human beings on the planet, and one must be cautious not to ignore the shadow aspects of ourselves and pretend like they don't exist. The dark and the light must live together and cohabitate for us to understand ourselves. As someone who has chosen a side, meaning purification, light, and holiness, I can attest that it is never a good idea to deny or ignore the other half of humanity. The other half of humanity, in the dark, shows us who we are. It teaches us something very important about the balance and structure of this world and our existence. One cannot exist without the other. If we are to ignore this duplicity by placing blinders on our consciousness and how we perceive the world, then we will never truly understand why we are here and who we are to become in order to ascend. The upward shift in our consciousness is not about ignoring the parts of our world that thrives in the darkness, but instead relies on how we perceive what is occurring on a higher level of consciousness in order to serve the world and heal the planet and ourselves. Our perceptions can discern whatever story we wish to create about our lives. We may decide that our life is a living hell, or we may choose to perceive all that occurs is of the highest blessing as an opportunity for growth. That decision is ultimately up to you. It's not up to your neighbor to treat you with the respect you feel you deserve, for you to be whole and complete. And it's not up to your child or significant other to stop being cranky in the morning, for you to stay in a good mood. It's up to you to see what is happening in a way that will serve you. Wanting the world to bend to your will so that you feel more comfortable is a clear avoidance of your own growth. The solution is to feel the fear and do it anyway, to get to the other side and become accountable for what you're creating. Facing it intentionally and walking through the fire goes a long way. Have the courage to do it now. Anyone who lives in a big city understands the depths that humanity goes to in its darkness. If you've ever been to places like New York or Los Angeles, you may see things that will disgust you, scare you, or even pique your imagination. While darkness might not be a personal choice in what you want to create, it's important to remember the whole picture. The dark is being created in our world every single day. Observing the dark side shows us what we get to ascend to or past, and as we continue to climb, we must do so with the understanding that we are pulling the rest of humanity with us into that consciousness of light and healing with our transformation alone. Not only that, but we have a responsibility to do so. For people who have chosen the side of the light, it may continue to be a painful experience to see what humanity creates on the other side of the spectrum, because we are far removed from that experience, until you learn the lesson of unconditional love. What darkness is creating is more than just a lack of empathy and selfishness or self-hatred and destruction. It's more than just being lost and not knowing who to turn to. It's about completely losing a sense of your real self. If humanity suddenly woke up and remembered that they are a being of light, they would be absolutely appalled at what they had just been creating just a moment prior when they were playing in the dark. Who you are at the core of your being is unconditional love. If you don't feel it, and you've lost track of who you are, then you might not recognize that experience of unconditional love being you in your purest form. Utilizing your purest form is more than just a feeling. It's a catalyst for change. It's the strength that holds the community together. It's the voice of knowledge and reason within safety and tragedy. It's the one thing that will support all of us to ascend into a place that can heal the highest pinnacles of destruction and hatred. Most importantly, it's energetically what you are comprised of and what keeps your body animated. Even if you don't feel that kind of love inside of you right now, that doesn't mean it's not there. Perhaps instead it is many layers of other experiences on top of your core that makes it hard to feel for now. But it doesn't mean it's dead, and it doesn't mean it's missing. It just means that you have an opportunity to rediscover who you are in your purest form, as opposed to having only the experience of who you are with your limiting beliefs, self-judgment, and pain layered on top of your purity. So, how does the darkest part of us matter in a life where you're striving to be your authentic, pure self? Why are we not only focusing on feeling that pureness only and nothing else? Certainly, that is the goal, but the goal cannot be reached by ignoring the world and everything inside of yourself that you get to heal. Once you do successfully heal all the parts of you that get to be transformed, then you will have earned your right to feel that peace all of the time. Do not make the mistake of ignoring the work because you want the peace right now. We must notice that life is a balance and not turn a blind eye to what's happening in the world, as so many of us do. That blindness gives permission for the darkness to thrive, because who we are at the core of our being would never allow the darkness to pollute our lives in this way. By ignoring it, you are truly giving permission for the dark to do whatever it wants. You are accountable for allowing darkness to thrive if you don't take a stand. That isn't to say that taking a stand means picketing on the street corners with signs or writing angry letters to Congress. Taking a stand could be something as simple as standing as unconditional love in your life for everything and everyone all of the time, including yourself. This is one of the most important stands you can make in your life. It gives permission to other people to be strong. Taking a stand means that you are creating love wherever you go, no matter what. Many people think unconditional love is being a doormat, but nothing could be further from the truth. Choosing to live as unconditional love is the most powerful stand you can take. It causes you to be at your maximum vulnerability all of the time. It challenges you to rip your heart open and feel everything raw and unencumbered. It's painful, and it's glorious. It's a sacrifice, but it is a worthy one, as it takes you down the garden path to discovering who you are authentically. If you are continuing to choose anything that covers up who you are as unconditional love, you are choosing inauthenticity. If you are lying or manipulating conversations so that you will receive an outcome that will keep you in your comfort zone, or if you're controlling the narrative within a conversation so that you can get a specific response from someone, ask yourself why you're hiding who you are, or why you've decided it is too painful to be vulnerable. This is a way to avoid feedback or to look at the dark corners. It's a great way to avoid growth. There must be accountability in what you're doing, and there must be an active choice to allow your heart to be wide open in every moment. Then, and only then, will you begin to discover who you are, unbound. Let's travel that path together and see where it takes us. If we are looking at the relationship between dark and light, we can see how that specific polarity exists in abundance within our human lives. One of the most obvious comparisons would be the starkness of day versus night. If we were to translate that psychologically or spiritually, we would see the obvious comparison from dark to light, spiritually speaking. There are certain areas of the planet that experiences mostly day and mostly night for certain periods. If we were to look at the psychological effects this has on the people who spend time in that environment, we can see that the dualistic night and day is better for overall wellness as opposed to just night or just day. There are similar comparisons of this type of duality in our elements as well. There is water versus air, or fire versus earth, or the polarity of happiness versus depression, or laughter versus crying. The bottom line is we must have both dark and light for light to exist, and the duality keeps us in balance. Regardless, it's all God, or spirit. It's as if we exist in the body of God, and every element here, including the devil himself, is simply an organ inside God's body, minding its own business and doing its thing. If that's the case, we must learn to love unconditionally, so we may best understand why our world is the way it is. Judging the world will not support in our understanding. True change begins with one person. Let it begin with you. Thanks for listening.
that you're giving to me.